Hello everybody, Andy here from Glass Half Dead, a Kill Team channel on the YouTube. So I want to do a little bit of a roundup of the winners and losers. We got about 4 of each from the latest balance patch, which obviously released on Wednesday. Yes, I did a big read through on that Wednesday, but it was like 50 minutes, an hour, and I wanted to say, hey, that is a level of commitment you don't have to have for Kill Team to still stay on top of what's changed. So this is going to be as quick as I can make it. That's a lie. As soon as I've said it, I know that's a lie, but I'll try my best to give you a breakdown of the winners and losers. We have all of the people that you are expecting in here. I don't think there's... If you watch the 50 minutes, then there's not really anything new here, but I am going to give a little bit of a different spin on certain things. We've started on a tier list. Allow me to shrinkify myself. I apologise. One moment. I am shrunkified. Much more real life size there. Perfect. Right, okay, so I'm on a tier list. This is Kill Team Battle Kit. I was gonna do like a slideshow where I kind of put everything up, and I was like, you know what, Battle Kit updates like the same or next day. Let's just use that. They do a great job here. Big up the Spanish community and Alberto there. This is a tier list from the Kill Team Mercenarios. They're some of the some really good players over in Spain. Always respect their opinion. That's why I've thrown it up here, so we can see they haven't updated their tier lists since the balance patch. That makes sense. You don't want to update things too fast, but that's roughly what we're looking at. Okay, right. With that said, let's dive straight into my first. Oh, sorry. This is also going to be a bit of a sandwich fest, if you know what I mean. So I'm not just going to say this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. I'm going to say this is good and this is bad, and then this is good. And then this is bad, because we don't, I'm a very positive guy, as you know, super positive. However, even someone as super positive as me can sometimes be led down the path of gloom, which is my natural dour state. So I'm going to try and avoid doing that, going back and forth, so I don't get stuck in a negative rant headspace. Cool. Now, before we get straight into the first one, I would, of course, like to give a subscribe-only benefit. And that subscribe-only benefit is a big double hello. Hopefully, I have messed with my sound levels enough that you could hear that and also not have my voice drowned out like before. Right, to be clear, I am not saying every change that is made, because some things I think are very impactful for everybody. But some things, although a good change, isn't really a negative in many ways. For example, High-Tech Circle had quite a few nerfs, but they're not actually getting listed here because I think it was just a good thing. They are arguably the one of the strongest teams in the game, possibly the best team in the game, arguably. And they were lightly touched. And so they're not a winner, maybe, but they're definitely not a loser because they're still probably A or A+ tier. Right, with that said, let's get into the first one. The first one, of course, is a winner, and it is the Imperial Navy Breachers. Now, I've said many times before that I'm not really a Navy Breachers guy. Their aesthetic doesn't appeal to me, and their gameplay's never really gelled with me. However, this team had such a fall from grace, and I have to assume that the G-Dubs playtesters just didn't know what was going on and how to change them. They rightfully nerfed them because they were 100% at one time the best team in the game in last edition. But going into this edition, it's taken them 9 months to get really any touches. And I just want to show you very quickly, so in case you don't know, the buffs here were +1 wound across the board. So if we look at a Navis Armsman, 4-up save, 2 wounds, Jesus Christ. 4-up save, 7 wounds, has now gone to 4-up save, 8 wounds. And I want to tell you why that is such a big win if you're a new player. So if you're a new player, Kill Team works not so much on just raw damage that can be put across, but it's more about damage breakpoints. So there are breakpoints in the game where the kill chance from one wound to the next is significantly bigger than if you then go from that wound to the next wound. And 7 to 8 wounds is one of those breakpoints. And I've put up a Kill Team calculator here for you. Can I zoom in on this? Is that going to work? Kill Team Calc, just go to Google or your search engine of choice and type in kill team count, you'll come up with this. A lot of people probably don't care about this. I would recommend you don't care about this. Doesn't matter. But I'm just going to very quickly show you the difference in 7 to 8 wounds. So here, just a standard bolter taking a shot at a 7 wound model with a 4-up save is this. So you have a 30% chance, basically a 1 in 3 chance to kill a model in one shot. Okay, and then as soon as you go to 8 wounds, you drop way down. It's practically 15-20% chance, a 1 in 5. That is a huge difference. Whereas if you look at, we then go jump up to 9 wounds, there's only a 3% difference. When you go from 8 to 9, tiny difference, because the breakpoint just doesn't matter between 8 and 9. 8 and 9 are almost the same number when it comes to breakpoints in Kill Team. 10 is the next big breakpoint. If you then go up to 10, there's a sudden big jump. Okay, so really, when you're looking at teams and are they good or bad, if you're a 7 wound team, you have issues. 8 wounds is normal. 9 wounds irrelevant. 10 wounds strong team. That is very roughly kind of a guide for you to consider there. So there you go. So we go from, they have gone now from a 30% chance to die to a 20% chance to die. So each guy is now 12% stronger, which is very good. That is probably something they need. Very, very good. In case you don't know, in the last edition of Kill Team, they were 8 wounds. Because you would always take a piece of equipment, I think it was called stims, and it just gave everybody 1+1 wound. They obviously removed that when they redid the new edition, and now they've just given it back to them baseline. So there you go. Yeah. I think when Kill Team is balancing things, they have to, you cannot have, it has been decided in the power of the game and breakpoints of the game, a 7 wound team that doesn't really do anything special. You have to be an 8 wound team to not do anything special. And now these guys are that, and hopefully now they can come back into the meta a little bit. We then go to the next step over. What are we going to be looking at? We've had a positive, good thing for the breaches there. We then go to a negative, which is a change to severe. Now, I didn't pick up on this when I first went ahead and read the core rules changed. In case you don't know, they clarified, to be clear, clarified, they didn't change, although nobody played it this way. Literally everybody I know ever played it the other way. So they clarified, but really changed, because every tournament I've ever been to played it this way. That you can only ever retain a dice once. This matters for certain teams quite a lot. Specifically, big nerf to Hearthkyn salvages. Hearthkyn salvages have something called a grudge token. When you can give out a grudge token once per turn, you can also do grudge tokens within X of an objective marker, and you can also do anytime one of the enemies kills a guy, you give them a grudge token, right? So you can start spreading grudge tokens around the board, and a grudge token, in your mind, as the opponent, would say auto crit. That is what you would say. What the grudge token actually does is, if you have retained a normal success, you can retain it as a critical success instead. However, the core rules update says you cannot retain a dice twice. And so the way grudge works is that when you would retain a normal, you instead say, no, I'm not retaining a normal, I'm retaining that as a crit. Cool, fine, makes sense. That's how a grudge works. We then go over to the operatives and we scroll to just normal dude, blah, 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 okay. Where are we going? Where's a normal dude? Warrior. Okay, down here we see you have an option. You have this on many different guys. You can either take an Autok Pattern Bolter or an Ion Blaster. They're the same damage profile, but one has accurate 1, one has piercing crits 1. So what does this mean? This means that accurate 1, when you're shooting a model with a grudge token, means guaranteed crit. Because before you would retain a normal with accurate 1, guaranteed, and then a grudge token would mean you then swap that accurate 1 to a crit, guaranteed crit. Now, you cannot do that. So accurate cannot be retained as a crit because you've already retained it. This is actually a pretty big nerf. It also means that any Hearthkyns will, like, piercing crits 1 is now 100% the better pick. There you go. Minor addendum also, I don't, so that is the most obvious thing. Accurate can now no longer be retained as a crit through this. Good stuff. but there's also quite a nerf to the Hand of the Archon. Hand of the Archon, if you're not aware, basically they get lots of crits. There you go. That's their rule. And so what you get is you get you would pay 1 CP command point for rending every turn, and you would also pay 1 command point for From Darkness Death, which a small condition that is very easy to get, and then you can retain one of your normal successes as a critical success instead, which is fine. However, it has been confirmed that this kind of fake crit does not trigger rending. So you get to still retain a normal as a crit, but now, because of the core rules update, that does not interact with rending, because this used to mean that when you retain the normal as a crit, you trigger rending, and so instead of retaining a single normal, you retain 2 crits. Cool. Now, that is a bit of a nerf to both teams in slightly different ways there. I think ultimately a good thing. I do think that a crit should be something of a sacred thing, in the same way that just a scratch kind of has been removed and said, okay, no, you can never just a scratch critical damage. A crit is a crit is a crit. Normal damage we can play with. Normal damage you can block, you can convert things, you can do other weird things with. But a crit, a natural 6, should be a natural 6. And there's not much you can do with it. There you go. Talking about not being able to affect crits much, we get over to the next winner, which I've apparently said is these bad boys right here. That's right. So technically, they took a nerf. They went from having on their Prospering Kopesh, they went from having 11.03 damage on average to having 11.02 damage on average. Now, understand that actually what they were nerfing was not the average damage, it was the potential maximum damage, because you should never look at just the Prospering Kopesh at Warpcoven on their base stats. That's not how they work. They work with shenanigans. They work with the fact that they are able to get dice manipulation as part of their thing, and now ultimately you can only affect 4 dice instead of ultimately affect 5 dice. This is a good change, but my god, Warpcoven needed such a harder nerf, and they got tickled by a light feather through their power armor. Didn't even take the power armor off to tickle them. This was an amazing win for the Warpcoven, who should have taken a nerf back to the bullsack. But the change of ways, maybe they moved it to their foreheads because they're a bunch of dickheads. Cool. So well done, Warpcoven, for dodging that nerf bat. We then go to the next win. No, sorry, this is a loss now. This is a loss, I guess. I don't know. It's all made up. And we have this piece of text here, which, due to my colour blindness, I literally cannot read until I highlight it. So, Dueler. Wow. Ooh. Buddy. This is a big change, as we all know. However, let's give up on the whole positive-negative sandwich. I said it on Wednesday, and I stand by it. I think this is a good change. I think that AOD had been entirely propped up by double block. Double block is so good. Like, yeah, you have to be a weak team to be able to double block. That's how double block works. That's how good it is. Being able to be 5 dice, hitting on 3s, guaranteed reroll, double block, so good. So good. Crazy. They finally removed it. I think Dueler is actually still totally viable. Like, being able to guarantee you get to block crits, I think that's really good. It is not as good as a double block, because the double block is insane, to be clear. But I think Dueler is still good. The real thing here is, and this is why this is a bit of a win for every bit. It's a loss for AOD, but it's a win for the rest of the game. And we're going to find out Plague Marines next as well, same thing. Just straight up, this was a hard counter. This was a hard counter for other melee teams. There you go. For example, Goremongers probably need a nerf. They had a slight touch, but maybe need a little bit more of that. But straight up, Goremongers could not beat Angels of Death. That's a bit of an issue, isn't it? I'm sure there were other teams too, but yeah, double parrying when you have such an innately strong profile is really, really good. So this is, I think, the right choice. I think this is a good change. It also means now, though, that we have to learn how to run Angels of Death without double parry, because I don't know. I would say, I think we need chapter tactics restriction removed. I don't think it makes sense in the game. And you know what? If that means you have to nerf other chapter tactics or the AOD team to get that removed, I think that needs to be done. There you go. Yeah, I think, yeah, there you go. Having chapter tactics locked in a tournament makes the power level of AOD completely different in a local pickup game to win a tournament, right? So if I'm taking AOD to my local, you know, my locals, and they're saying, oh, I'm going to run whatever, a team that's not going to melee me, I say, okay, great, I'm going to ignore aggressive dueler, and I'm going to take some other ones that allow me to do more damage at range. Nice. Cool. But I would never ever run those in a tournament. And so it kind of elevates the customizability of AOD in local scenes, but doesn't, but only, yeah, you get me. Moving on, we go to the Plague Marines and we go to Contagion, which is over in Ploys. We've had removed, it's within control range of friendly Plague Marine operatives. So, same as Dueler, hey, managing to make any time an enemy is within melee of you, and that's the only thing, that's the only condition they need to satisfy, they are in melee with you, and they're -1 to hit. Teams are not designed to be able to win the game when they are permanently -1 to hit. The one I'm thinking of is a very obvious one in Felgor. Felgor Ravagers, just that team is not designed to be -1 to hit. It doesn't work. This was another hard counter. And I think the thing there is it wasn't intentionally a hard counter. You know, it's not like we've had, oh, this team's really, really good, but the game and the meta is designed around you have a sideboard, and so we've deliberately made the entire game paper, rock, scissors, and you have to guess, oh, is my enemy taking Felgor? Right, not to worry, I've got my hard counter. Oh, is my opponent taking Phobos? Oh, not to worry, I've got my hard counter to elite shooting. It's not the game. We have a little bit of flexibility in our team and our rosters, but ultimately, the way Kill Team works, the way the game works, the way the teams have been designed, is teams are designed to be played in one specific way, and it's up to you as the pilot to adapt to what happens on the board to play them in the correct way in the moment. But ultimately, every team is designed to play in a very specific way, and it doesn't really work if you don't play it in that way, and the game design is not there for you to be able to play Felgor, as an example, in a different way. They only play one way. Playing that one way they are allowed have been designed to play at -1 to hit permanently doesn't work. Which in a sense is nice that the game is that balanced, that, you know, being -1 to hit is so important to the team, like that's, you know, so that's nice. And we then get on to a tier list. So we're back on the tier list because I'm basically done, but I want to highlight that this was a balance patch of nerfs to top teams, but slight nerfs across the board. We had so few buffs that I think there's generally a very negative perception to the nerfs that just happened, or sorry, the data slate that just occurred, and nobody's really hyped and like, oh, I love that this team has gotten buffed, because nobody got buffed, and nobody plays breaches, so nobody's talking about that. It doesn't matter. It's okay. Everybody is only naturally talking about, oh, my team AOD Plague Marines got nerfed. Ugh, lame. Whereas I think that a slightly more balanced approach would have been to do a few more buffs to go with the nerfs, so at least people could say, no, AOD lost Jeweler, that's sad for me because I'm an AOD player, as we all are, but my other team one of the 30 in the bottom half, there's a big half, got buffed. So I'm going to swap to them. And I think that would lead to a much more positive impression with online discussion. So I just want to very quickly tell you what I'm talking about there. So if we go to here, I mentioned this at the end of the 50-minute thing. I asked the same question to you again. In case you do not know, we have these stats. If you want to see these for yourself, just Google Kill Team Stats Coffee and it will come up. It's from Chris. Look here. We have 40 teams. Okay, we have 40 teams. Here you go. All 40. Only the top 10 have above a 50% win rate in tournaments. Can you please tell me a good clickbaity name so it gets views instead of just me ranting into the void for what that video is? I can only assume it's something about Kill Team's broken, because it is. Only having 10 teams, only having a quarter of the teams be above a 50% win rate, I think is very concerning. It's a really big issue. But maybe it's not. Maybe I'm reading the stats wrong. Genuinely, let me know. But I think this is damning. Like, I don't care that Brood Brothers are 0.5% above Nemclaw. That's irrelevant. I don't even care that, you know, Sanctifiers are 5% above Aquilons. Kind of irrelevant, right? I'm not saying this is super kind of accurate. I'm saying if you look at the overarching trend of just win rates, just how are a quarter of all teams winning half of all games, you know? I don't know, it's an issue. Like, very genuinely, if you want to go to a tournament, if you want to pick a new team, only pick from the top 10 teams. If you pick any of the other 30 teams, you're kind of screwing yourself. Anyway, if you made it to the end of the video, I'd like to give you a big triple hello. Hey, did you know I have affiliate links? If you're ever buying Warhammer in the UK or the US, I have affiliate links. If you click on those, I get a kickback, and it costs you no extra. That'd be awesome. I also do a whole load of Kill Team gear and equipment that I use myself. If there's a link to it, that means I use it in all of my games, and pick up the right one for you. Using my affiliate link, you get money off, and I get a little kickback. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.